Monday, January 13th, 2025. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we're going to talk about ways to sell software. We headed over to the New Jersey to see the PWHL game, and the Toronto Scepters kind of unfairly lost to the Sirens.
Well, I think the Sirens played better in period one.
Yep.
The Scepters played better in period two. Period three was a little more even, but probably still Scepters better.
It went to overtime pretty legitimately.
Yeah, the Sirens have the great goalie that they had last year, Schroeder.
Yep.
So she's great. She saved that team's ass. Then they got to OT, and then in OT, she made some amazing saves, and then the Sirens scored, but it was kind of offsides.
It was like a foot offsides.
It was way offsides.
You showed me that picture, and she is like so far past the blue line, it's comical.
It was not a close offsides. It was offsides. They should not have won, at least not based on that goal.
Yep.
But I guess the rules or whatever, they don't do the review the same way the NHL does, and I guess the refs they talked about it, and then the team shook hands.
Yep.
It's like, okay, we'll take the W, but
it's fun because part of the this is not a take you'd expect from a Rim of Geek Nights, but in both the NHL and the PWHL, I'm actually, for all my complaints about offsides in football, I'm pretty okay with offside being an on-ice call only in hockey, because the intent of the offside rule is not to litigate a millimeter of space on an offside.
It's so that you don't stand next to the other team's goalie and have someone pass it to you all the way down the ice, and then you just score.
The
right?
rule
That's
is just,
the reason.
you can't have someone all the way on the other side waiting, because the hockey used to be that way, and guess what? That's all anyone
soccer
did.
has the same thing. It's like in any sport where there's like two nets, two scoring things far away from each other. If you don't have an offside rule of some kind, however the rule is, somebody can just wait in the offensive zone. Of course, you'll be down one defender, sure, but and then it's just someone could just make one really long pass, and then you have a scoring opportunity. And now the game just becomes kind of stupid. The game should be about advancing up and down the field of play, right?
Yep.
And so, in U.S. American football, they let you do a long bomb if you want. It's like, but that's sort of a different, situation, right? But you need to have an offside rule. But the problem is, it's like, okay, well, we're going to review all these offside rules, and people are annoyed that the review, takes away from the excitement of scoring a goal, because it's like, we scored, did we?
Yep.
And then you get less excited when
before they had the capability to do this level of review, because like in the old days, the cameras were like not good enough to do a review that close. Like the odds of even finding something to overturn in that blurry old footage kind of zero. But in the old days, when that siren went off, that meant a fucking goal.
Right. But also, we want to get it right. We don't want someone to have a goal like this where, it was not really should not have been a goal. Yeah. No way it should have been a goal. So,
compounding this, though, officiating in this game was overall pretty squirrely. One of the linesmen was just like in the way of the play often enough to where it was a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
The one guy on the left side, the tall guy, was like he was in the way and like bumped into players a bunch of times.
But I say, my crazy idea that I can't even get people to discuss this idea in hockey Discords or Reddits or whatever, is like, why don't you just get rid of review, right? Entirely. Just have view. But you should have however many it takes, 30 refs, 40 refs, 50 refs, I don't care how many, right? A whole room of people at the arena with every fucking camera angle. And these people have their eyes glued at every camera all the fucking time. Every second of play, every player has a camera on them at all times. The puck always has several angles on it, the goals, everything. The people are just watching the game like a hawk, right? And nothing escapes them. At any moment, any one of them can instantly radio the on-ice ref to raise their hand, blow the whistle, and they make calls. They don't just sort of advise. It's like they are making calls, all of them. They're all full-on refs who can make any call, a missed penalty, and they can correct any call. So You don't need to like, by the time a coach is even like deciding to do a coach's challenge, no, the people in that video room will already have made the call and told the on-ice ref what the call is. There's no reviewing, right? They are as faster even than we see at home. How many times you're watching at home and they show a replay and you go, oh, it's offsides. And you already know, but then you have to wait like a whole other minute before like the situation room in Toronto
figures it out. Or never mind situations
out.
Like he hit himself in the face with his own stick. How is that a high sticking call?
And we at home, we can see that very quickly. It only takes a few seconds, and then the review takes way longer than that.
We're not expert officiators, and the only time we get it wrong is when we don't like fully understand whatever obscure rule they're using to make the call.
But the point is that we can get the call right in just like 5 to 10 seconds with our at-home footage. So somebody watching the game from every angle in real time should be able to get every call exactly right in less than that, right? And so there won't be reviews. They're just constantly reviewing everything all the time, making all the calls. Nothing escapes them. And if this could cause another problem, which is that if you call everything in the game perfectly as humans can, because you put so many resources towards it, there'll be too many stoppages because no one gets away with anything, right? It's like NFL football doesn't work if you actually call every holding penalty because they'll be holding on every fucking play, right?
Yellow flags just like confetti after every single down.
Yeah, if you did this for the NFL, it would just be constant yellow flags just raining down from the sky. They'd have to have like a yellow flag bazooka. Like, boom. Every play, they just shoot it off before it's like, but what you could then do is proceed to the next step, which would be change the rules of the game. It's like you put the resources forward so that you're going to call the game as perfectly as humanly possible, as quickly as humanly possible. Now change the rules to make the game good.
The change I would actually make is for the offside rule in particular, considering its intent. I would say that is the one place where the call on the ice stands. And if a review cannot immediately, like a very limited time goes by of, is there any reason why that was wrong? If it's too close to call, it's never offside, because if it's too close to call, it is definitely not part of the intent of the rule. Kind of like how in the Blackbeard's Treasure game that we played, Treasure Island, the board game. The rule is if the guess is too close to tell if they're right or not, they're automatically right, game over. Like if there's any debate, you're right.
The other thing they could do is they could just make, a less extreme solution, right? It's just, you could do that, but also just make the blue line a little thicker, right? And change the rule so that it's only offsides if the player is 100% over the blue line and the puck is 100% not over the blue line. Like if you're over the blue line but the puck is like touching the blue line, that's fine. If you are touching the blue line and the puck hasn't touched the blue line yet, you're still not offsides yet, right? And if the blue line's thicker, it's like there's going to be way less issues if you just decrease that margin, because right now the blue line,
and then if you got called offside and you're close on a 2 foot wide blue line, like that's on you, buddy. You were really too close to the edge of that line. Calm down.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, in some news, there's a bunch of tech news.
Because CES happened at a time like right after a Geek Nights episode, so it's been the CES news was sitting around waiting for another Geek Nights Monday to happen.
I have looked at nothing from CES.
Okay, so
I have no idea
here's
what's
going down. Here's the news is from CES that I give more than zero shits about, right? So tons and tons of new displays from all kinds of companies. The big news in the displays is that a lot of them are going to be using AI machine learning bullshit to try to enhance the image, and I don't want that. So I'm glad I bought the TV from last year.
When we got our new TV and I was turning off all that bullshit, Emily asked the question that all smart people ask every time they interact with a modern TV. Who wants this? Why is this here?
All that stuff is there for people who don't have any extra boxes. They just plug their TV in and then they just use the TV remote only.
But even then, like, who wants like interpolation to make like something 60 FPS? It just
they don't know. they don't even know that it's happening.
But if they don't even know it's happening, why even waste time doing it?
Because when the TV is, even though someone doesn't even know what interpolation is or that it's on or what it does, if you put that on TVs in a store, and it's on display, it's more impressive than TVs that don't do it.
But now my
when they're showing the colorful
who the fuck
test
buys
footage.
a TV in a store in the year of our Lord 2025? You go online.
A lot of people
direct.
do.
Yeah.
One of the biggest sections at the Costco is you walk right in. It's all the TVs right up front.
Yep.
All right. So the other thing is that Dell, the displays, they got new Ultra Sharps coming, and the new Ultra Sharp, at least the good one, the 24-inch 4K one, that is the one that you're going to buy if you have to buy one.
These two Ultra Sharps.
Yep. They have increased the refresh rate on it from the usual 60 to like 100 something hertz. So that's pretty great, actually.
Oh, so I can cheat at Marvel Overwatch now.
Yeah. Other news. So Steam, they got their Steam Deck, which is pretty popular these days, even though I'm not into it. And there's a lot of other companies like, Asus has like that ROG, whatever it is, a lot of companies are making other Steam Deck competitors, right? Things that look like a Nintendo Switch, but they're a PC.
I see things like that on the subway kind of often these days. Like, they are popular.
They're pretty popular, right?
Yeah. I see more of those than Switches.
Sure. I mean, yeah. Valve has announced that basically they're going to let other companies sell their devices that other companies make, but install SteamOS on them the same way that like Dell would make a computer and sell it with Windows on it.
Smart move.
Lenovo is the first one. They're going to make one of these things, the Lenovo whatever Legion, some bullshit whatever, and it's going to come with SteamOS installed. I can see a world where most nerdy people have like a Mac and they don't really have a gaming PC. They do have a gaming PC, but it's just a computer that runs SteamOS and not Windows.
Yep.
Which, by the way, is Linux. So that's something. All right, other news from CES. For some reason, VLC had money and made a booth there. Like, I guess it was the smallest size booth, and they had,
objectively the best booth there, and also
they had a guy with a traffic cone hat.
Wins the award for booth most on the right side of history at any CES in history.
Yeah, but anyway, at the booth, one of the things that they were touting was they have a promotional VLC Game Boy game that's coming, which is interesting. And also, they are going to do some machine learning BS, which is like, oh no, right? Not again. That's what everyone's doing. We hate that shit. But VLC, what they got going on is I think it's going to use some OpenAI stuff, which is, whatever. But it's going to be they say it's going to be entirely local on your computer. So you're probably not going to need an account with OpenAI to make this work, right? It's just going to work locally. And it will be able to subtitle in real time any video you're watching in a crap ton of languages. Obviously, not 100% correctly because machine learning. But if you got some footage that's in some other language that you don't know, and it's not fan subbed, and doesn't have subtitles in your language because you speak an uncommon language, or it's in an uncommon language, or it's just really old and no one's ever going to subtitle it, or whatever. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah,
and
this is the kind
it's entirely
of use
local
of
and free. It's like that's
that
not
we
bad.
should be embracing. Like this is a good use.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'd rather have VLC that has that feature than not.
Yeah.
So cool. And then the last one is, as I have predicted for many years, NVIDIA has finally made an all NVIDIA computer. It is an NVIDIA CPU and an NVIDIA GPU, and it's a tiny little computer, but it is not a computer that you are going to buy. I was expecting them to make a gaming PC, and you know what? It could be not too long into the future that you could buy an all NVIDIA computer with SteamOS installed. That could happen.
And you know what? There's a universe where I might have that in a MacBook.
I might buy one of those, depending on what it costs. But the computer that they have announced right now is not a computer that you would buy unless you're a weirdo or a professional who's working on something like this. What it is, it's an ultra powerful but small computer that is focused on machine learning biz, of course. And the idea being you're going to develop a machine learning program or model or application of some kind that it will ultimately be run in production on NVIDIA's cloud platform, because NVIDIA I guess has a cloud that's just a bunch of GPUs somewhere that you can pay to use, just like you can use Oz or Azure or whatever. And the idea is that you would develop your application locally on one of these things, which is powerful enough to like really test, and then you'll have an easy path to deploying onto the NVIDIA cloud situation. So really niche device, but it is a computer with an NVIDIA CPU and GPU, and well, it just start the ball rolling, right? We'll see. And that is all the news from CES that I give any craps about. There's probably a ton more, but I don't care.
Yep. So meanwhile, in Hell World, the fascists take over in about a week, and we've already had 2 erodings of the internet that are kind of important to talk about. So the first one, and this article is from January 2nd, the Supreme Court didn't waste any time. Basically, net neutrality is fully, officially, finally dead. There's no more mandate for net neutrality. The courts have basically ruled that net neutrality is not a thing unless Congress passes a specific law enshrining the full details of it, and that the court no longer has to give deference to any interpretation the FCC makes related to this. So it's a Wild West again. ISPs can do whatever they want. Service providers can do whatever they want. We do not know what the ramifications will be, but they're probably not going to be great for the internet.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, oh, it's like the best possible outcome is nobody does anything, but that seems unlikely, right? So
I predict the first thing we're going to see happen is some telco or ISP is going to try to extort a company like Netflix out of some money again.
It's something like that could happen. We've seen that in South Korea, right, where they've tried to make the people on the other end of the situation pay, right? Like Twitch has to pay, and that's why they pulled out. I think it's more likely that what the people who will suffer are, at least in the United States, because of this, are the people who live in rural, low coverage, expensive.
The people who voted for all this bullshit.
Yeah, so they're going to get what they voted for. They're, all those people are going to suffer the most because it's expensive to set up infrastructure out there, and I think they just the ISPs just won't in a lot of cases, or those people have to use services with all kinds of data caps, and they'll have their internet traffic shaped so that some services are faster, some are slower, right? Prioritized and whatnot, and the people who just like have fiber like us. Is it possible that, Verizon will do some shady biz? Of course, but it doesn't seem as likely, because there's not much benefit for them to do so.
But the buried lead here is that this is partly possible because of the same thing we talked about a while back on Geek Nights of overturning the Chevron decision. Broadly, the U.S. government is now in a position to where previously regulatory agencies like the FCC would have a mandate from Congress to regulate an area, and they could basically craft the details of that regulation based on their own expertise. And if Congress didn't like what they did, Congress could constrain them, but otherwise the FCC would get to decide how to interpret the laws Congress passed, which is the right thing to do because Congress cannot pass laws in that level of detail. It's just literally impossible.
I mean, even if you had a functioning Congress with like all good faith lawmakers,
even if I never said the word filibuster again.
Right. It's like any government on earth, no matter, even if it's the best ideal democracy, wonderful utopia, you can't have a Congress that's full of like experts in all kinds of fields, right? It's people who might know something about a field, right? But not experts in every field. You can't have doctors, you can't have, it's mostly lawyers right? in a Congress. And so basically every country on earth, even the evil countries, right? Like China and whatnot, is you have government agencies where there are experts in fields, right? Even your military is experts on war and defense. And what you do is you have your government, give power to say, okay, listen, we are giving you power to decide, you expert people, how to handle these situations because we are a few hundred lawmakers. We can't get into that level of detail. It is not humanly possible for us to make the specific rules about like,
What is an appropriate amount of bandwidth
growing
for
corn,
a tier 1 ISP? Or
right, the rules for growing corn,
springs.
right? Is like we can make a big rule, like we want more corn, we want less corn, or we should protect corn farmers or we should screw them over. But we can't make detailed rules like, yes, this much corn pesticide, this one is safe and that one's not. And you should use this much on this schedule. Otherwise, your food isn't fit for
Here's
consumption.
a great topical example. You are to try to prevent fires and mitigate the damage from fires. Here is your budget.
All right, so we have the Forestry Service, and the Congress just says, Forestry Service, you have the power to deal with forest problems. Go ahead. Right?
But under the new court rulings, the way America works now is any decision by any regulator, if our Republican Party doesn't like it, they'll just sue. It'll basically automatically be overturned. Like there's these lawsuits because of the new precedent have no chance of not succeeding, even in kind of extreme cases. And the court's response is, if you want to have a regulation, put it in the law. And they're doing this because they know it's impossible to put it in the law because the goal is to end regulation. And this is the first step.
Well, you should start. I think what we need to do is we should, the way to fight back is to end the regulations that they want to keep. Right? There's plenty of regulations that Republicans like, and we should get rid of those. Like, hey, there's another news story going on right now, we could do this as a topic.
The Pornhub thing, because that's my next one.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, so we're on the same line. So speaking of which, if you're not aware, Pornhub is now blocked in the entire Confederacy. 17 states have passed ridiculous, overreaching laws requiring age checks that introduce what I would characterize as extreme privacy risks. And Pornhub very smartly has said, well, rather than comply with that, we're just going to block your entire state.
Right. So the people here are well-meaning, right?
Some of the people here are well-meaning, but another subset of the people here, this is a gateway to specifically start trying to ban LGBT stuff. This is like their foot in the door.
Yes, but there are well-meaning people who are like, hey, listen, you got these free porn sites, and you can go to them and just click I agree, and you get in.
Yep.
And some of the porn on there is perfectly normal porn that is legitimate consulting adults doing perfectly normal activities that are okay for people to see. But even those, should children see them? Maybe, right? It depends which children, what context, etc. Some of the porn on there, even if it's not underage people, right? There may be some with non-consenting people that goes out and then gets taken down or doesn't get taken down, or trafficking victims.
But then also we get into the whole
other activities.
What even is pornography? Because a lot of the people who are for these rules are against any form of nudity.
Of course, right? But regardless, it's like nobody in their town, right, that has like the sex shop is trying to, like, even the leftiest lefty isn't like, hey, 3-year-olds, we need to get rid of the rule that doesn't let 18-year-olds and children into the sex shop. 15-year-olds need to be able to go in there, right? Yeah. It's like, that's okay. The problem is the reality of the internet is that you just can't. It's like, yeah, if we could wave a magic wand and have a perfect technology that does this the right way, sure, I would be okay with that. But we don't have that.
Like the World Wide Web is just a protocol that lets people access websites.
Right. It's like you can use a VPN to get around the geo-blocking. You can just, steal your parents' ID and get into the porn site. You can put it, there's so many ways around any kind of technology. You won't actually protect the children if you do this.
But meanwhile,
right?
Any way we could have to try to stop that access will, in fact, instead deeply infringe on the rights of adults.
Yes, all the people who are engaged in both sides of the trade, right, the sex selling business, industry, they will suffer greatly if this sort of age verification of any technology is implemented, right? The people will be like identified. There'll be a database somewhere of like who watched what prawn.
Yep.
it's like that's a dangerous database to exist. The database of who bought what on, various shopping sites already has gotten leaked, right? It's like the porn industry. It's like that database will get out.
Here's a list of
database of that dating site where everyone
dildo in the past 6 months.
Yeah, the dating site where everyone cheats, their database got leaked. It's like we cannot have that database be created
Yep.
to have an illusion of security for children. All right, that's not good. So, and that's just how it is. But these bans are state laws. They're not federal agency regulations. So the Chevron-y thing doesn't really apply.
Yep.
But if someone did try to put in this kind of nonsense regulation that we don't like via government agency, right? 'Cause, then we could fight back with the same argument.
Possibly.
Someone could.
There is one big danger, and I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen, but I'm saying it is a real possibility we have to consider, that the way the courts will interpret this will essentially be, if Republicans like it, they will uphold it, and if Republicans don't like it, they will accept the anti-Chevron defense, and they'll just do it arbitrarily, and there's nothing we can do.
Do something.
Yeah? Just say that's something we might have to face.
Listen, that's not the way it was, right? And then Republicans did something to make it this way. If they did something to make it this way, do something to make it not this way.
Yeah, there's nothing legal you can do to make it not this way.
They did it legally.
Well, sort of. It's complicated.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm just saying.
The problem is
the government can be changed. They changed it.
Well,
fight.
They changed it.
Change it back.
Part of the problem is they changed it by appointing Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
We don't have a way to appoint Supreme Court justices, so that's it.
Figure it out.
But anyway, things of the day. So what do you got?
What did I
It's
have?
21 minutes and 15 seconds.
Oh, right. So, this is actually
I can't believe that's what jogged your memory.
Yeah. So, this is quite old, actually, but I didn't encounter it until recently. We all know the movie Blade Runner, the first one, even though the sequel one is also good. Legendary, nerdy movie of all time.
Yep.
And that movie has many cuts, and it's very confusing to all the people, right? Which cut do I watch? One's got like a voiceover, one's got different scenes.
Voiceover but there's a lot of nuance.
Yeah, I frankly, I don't even know. I've seen the movie like a few times, and I don't know which cuts I've seen. I don't know what the differences are. It's like, maybe I should go and try one more time and study it and watch the right cut, whatever that is. I've even tried to Google it at least once, and I couldn't find a good explainer.
I actually haven't seen this movie in like 15 years, I want to say. I feel like I should watch it again.
I think the final cut is the one, but regardless, there's a cut called the Electric Unicorn fan release.
Yeah.
And the Electric Unicorn fan release includes deleted scenes that I guess these scenes have been available. I guess maybe there was some behind the scenes thing or whatever that these scenes got out. I don't know how people got a hands on them. Maybe there were DVD extras or some shit. But regardless, here is a YouTube video that contains the deleted scenes, which are included in the Electric Unicorn fan release. It's not the whole movie. It's just the scenes that are in that release that are not in the normal movie because they were deleted. And so it's just like watching a bunch of deleted scenes with no context in order.
So I went down a rabbit hole. The thing that I'm going to link to is a video, but in the forum, I'm going to link to some other things because I learned about something I did not know about. Scott, are you familiar with Rondò Veneziano?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because I'd never heard that name before, but the image
that I've shared with you in that one clip.
The image that you shared with me in that video clip, I have seen this.
And it is a short animation with a Daft Punk adjacent robot.
I mean, it's robot people, which is Leiji Matsumoto adjacent.
True,
which Daft Punk is also Leiji Matsumoto adjacent.
Well, it's more Daft Punk adjacent than you might think. So I stumbled upon this video and the description, and it was great. Like I love this kind of shit. And the description says, I'm just going to read it to you. Apparently, Italian TV used to show this excellent music video to fill schedule gaps in the early 80s. And I was like, all right, that's cool. What is this? So because I wanted to learn a little more, and I dug a little deeper. So Rondò Veneziano is a band that is still active today They debuted in 1979, and their shtick predates Daft Punk. I linked to a video of them performing live. They wear robot suits, and they play Baroque rondos. That's it. They play Baroque rondos, like original
Rondo
ones.
of Blood.
So, I mean, Rondo is a specific kind of music, and that game is named
Rondo
what it
of
is for a reason.
Swords.
But so they perform Baroque rondos, both original and like covers of old Baroque rondos, but they include modern instruments. So you'll see like a Baroque chamber orchestra playing a rondo, except there's also 2 electric guitars and a drum kit. And all the performers are wearing Daft Punk looking robot suits while they perform.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that they have made is amazing. They are like deeply consistent with their bit and what they do. And this was all new to me.
Are they alive?
They are still performing. They have toured recently.
Oh, well, if they come to New York.
Oh, yeah, they're not touring currently, but I am keeping an eye out. If they tour, I'm absolutely going to go see that.
The partial discography that is on Wikipedia starts in 1980 with Rondo Veneziano and ends at Once Upon a Time in 2010, but it says partial, so I don't know what they've done for the last 15 years.
So the other thing I learned is that in Italy and Germany and like specific parts of Europe, they are fucking like legendary and everybody knows about them.
All right.
I asked a coworker and he was like, Americans don't know about them? So
on Spotify, they have there aren't really things that are newer than the 2000s.
They were number 1 on the Germano Russido chart when they debuted in
nice
Italy.
album covers.
And number 3 on the Musica e Disci chart. And they hit 32 in Germany. That was just their debut at the end of 1979.
Okay.
In the meta moment, MAGFest is next week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. So, that is the 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th of January.
I don't know. I'm going to check if it is sold out yet because it was selling out.
I have been told by many people it is very close to selling out, which means it's going to be a madhouse in there.
Yep. Actually, if it doesn't sell out before the con, that's almost worse because people will definitely show up and not get a badge.
Yeah, I will say this. The fact that they're selling out made me realize, hey, MAGFest doesn't have the badge line problems that other cons have, even though they don't mail the badges.
It has the fact that you can only, the hotels within a reasonable distance of the convention can account for at most like 5% of the attendees.
Yeah, it's that they have this big registration room, and all you really have to do is walk in, scan a QR code, and they hand you a badge.
Yep.
And the fact is people trickle into MAGFest, especially on the Thursday, right? Mm-hmm. And so that it's not like other cons where they start on Friday and like everyone's trying to get in right away immediately. People trickle into MAGFest, and that eases that reg process. They should still mail the badges. If they don't want to mail their fancy special upgrade badge, that's fine.
Yeah.
But they should mail the regular ones because if the con is selling out, that reg room, like I said, it works kind of well, actually, compared to other cons with @con reg, because it's a big room. That could be a content room at MAGFest.
That could be the night market.
It could be a lot of
granted,
things.
Actually,
it could
all
just
of
be
MAGFest is a night market because MAGFest doesn't fucking stop.
I'm just saying, it could just be an expansion of existing MAGFest areas to take up more room. And those reg staff, they got staff in there all the time. Obviously, the staff dwindles in that room starting for after Friday because a lot less. Everyone's got the badge already, right? But there's still some staff in there. If they cleared out the reg room, they could do something else with that space.
It's a big space.
If it was will call only for people who didn't mail the badges, the reg space could be way smaller, and it would be big. And if you're selling out MAGFest, you can't move it. You can't really go somewhere bigger. No place else is going to work and still be MAGFest.
Also, MAGFest has never sold out in the era where it was in the big building. So this is going to be... And last year's MAGFest was honestly the best MAGFest I've ever been to. Like, this is on upward trajectory.
MAGFest, it's time to mail the badges, shrink the reg room, get those staff supporting that space, doing some other function, because you're selling out. You need to do as much more content as you can.
So we will be there with 3 talks, and so one on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Every game is the same game. A new panel that we wrote that I've never been able to perform because I had to skip some PAXs because I got sick right before 2 of them, and Scott was stuck doing it by himself. I really like the gist of this panel, so I look forward to doing it. 2, on Sunday at 1 p.m., the 39 games you must play, which I've also never presented for the same reason. And 3, on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. in panel 4, me and Emily are giving a talk on postmodernism in games and game design that we're pretty proud of and excited to present to all of you. Otherwise, let us know if you're going to be at MAGFest. I would be more than happy to pick a time and a location for any of you who are hearing these words and are interested in meeting us to meet up and hang out. It's not going to be a big event, but I'm willing to commit to a time and place where we will be present. And if no one shows up,
it's only going to work if you announce the time and place.
Yes. So I am curious if anyone is interested in this, but I am probably just going to pick a time and place.
Why don't we just do it like immediately following our panel or some shit?
We could. I gotta look through the schedule because there's other things I might want to do.
You might have to run from your panel.
I might. I mean, MAGFest, I like PAXs. MAGFest is a con where I'll flip through the panel schedule and think, oh shit, I gotta go to that like 5 or 6 times every time I flip through the schedule. Just MAGFest has content that you don't see at other cons in general. And anyway, I'm going to pick a place and a time very soon and post it other than these 3 panels. And otherwise, MAGFest is going to be lit, and I hope to see you there. So how do we sell software?
Well, in the olden days, there were really only 2 ways when people started trying to sell software for money, right? There was really only 2 ways. One was, I got a copy of the software. You give me money, I give you a copy.
Yep.
Right? The just selling commercial software. And the other way was, here, have a copy for free.
Yep.
That was it. Those are the 2 ways.
And that second way kind of split into freeware, which you're not selling, so it's kind of out of the scope of this show.
Yeah.
Or shareware, which was basically like shareware didn't last that long, but shareware was a big deal because it was sort of a try before you buy concept that was just super effective. Like I bought a lot of shareware, like pay $5 to try my software.
I didn't fully understand. I played a lot of shareware games and never bought the full game. I just kept playing the shareware.
I mean, to this day, I'm unconvinced that anyone bought Scorched Earth.
Yeah, it's like Raptor Call of the Shadows. I only played those beginning levels.
Yeah, because that was enough for me. But I did. I spent $5 to buy the Doom shareware, and then it was so amazing, I bought actual Doom.
Oh, you had to actually pay for the Doom shareware? Oh, okay. Because usually shareware was
a lot of
you get a free demo, but the demo is only part of the full software, and there'll be some limitation baked into it, right? Like a game would only have the first level or a time limit.
Well, there were a lot of places that would sell shareware really cheap, basically to cover the cost of the disc and the box and the fact that they're like running a stand.
Oh, sometimes. Yeah, I usually got a free CD or disc with a magazine that had shareware.
I paid $5 to get Doom on floppy.
Yeah,
shareware.
But there would be some kind of limitation. Office software that had a bunch of features removed other than the basics. Just something to get you hooked on the software so that you needed it. You were saving files in their proprietary format or whatever it was. And then that would get you to be like, okay, I need this software fully featured and not bothering me with notices all the time and advertising at me and missing features. Now I'll pay for it, right? Whereas, if it was just either a binary of you can't even try the software or you can pay for it, it's like, well, I'm not paying $50 for something I can't even try and I don't even know if I need it. Right? And so shareware was successful in those days.
A big part of that, I think, was that it was a way for especially smaller software shops, often just like one person, could basically directly sell and market without having to be a big company and outlay like the traditional retail footprint of selling something. It was an early access to that market to nerds who are good at software but not good at everything else.
I think also, even though plenty of software piracy was happening, is that if you spread your shareware around, it's like because it was legally being spread, it was spreading more, right, than the pirated software was, right? It's sort of, there was a little bit of resistance to the pirated stuff spreading, not
Yep.
much.
There
But
was
there was
you-
no
like,
resistance to the shareware spreading. It was like you couldn't. It's like if in the early '90s, mid '90s, it's like it would be surprising if you didn't have just a bunch of sharewares on your computer.
Yeah,
It's
and you just pass shareware around, and like I'd go to conventions, like at Michigan, there was a table that was just piles of floppy disks of random shareware, and the most crazy thing is that back then, 0 of those things had malware because there was honor among thieves in ancient times.
Yeah, and it's like you would go to like 2cows or download.com once the internet came around.
Yep.
Even if you were a normal person, not even news groups, right? But normal people, download.com, websites like that. And you'd be like, shit, I need a program that does this. And you would download one and it would be like 7-zip or WinRAR
Yep.
shareware.
You
And it
download
would
like
do
a .exe and you'd run it on purpose on your computer, and
you
it
trusted
was
where it
fine.
came from.
Yeah. And it was honestly fine back then.
Yeah, some of them. So you got
Well-
it from a good website.
Yeah, but even like malware that was malicious, like modern malware, was rare to the point of being effectively non-existent for a long time. Partly because
And
you couldn't-
if you went to shady sites, you would get it, but not if you went to these major download websites that were
but in the
run by
in the
real.
earlier floppy days, there was basically no malware. Partly because the only malware you could make would fuck with someone. But you couldn't make money off of it, so there wasn't a profit motive to make malware before the modern internet.
It was also very common for you to just buy a computer and there'd just be a bunch of sharewares already installed on it,
Yep.
or like coming with it. And even if you reset the computer with
A
the
lot
disks
of
they
people
gave you,
had there was this list of 31 shareware games for Windows that like everyone fucking had. Like Jezball was in there.
Yep. So shareware was a thing, right? And that was effective in its day, but it wasn't that effective, I guess, because it's not around anymore too much.
Yeah, well, capitalism and a lot changed since then. Like the internet came into existence for real.
Yep. Okay, so I guess we didn't really spend any time talking about just selling software, right? But just selling software is effective, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I have it. Do you want it? Pay me, right? And as long as you have a piracy protection system, or maybe using keys, or maybe you're just trusting people, or who knows what you've got to I mean, even if you have it be pirated, some people are still going to pay anyway.
Yep.
Right?
Well, and I remember I bought Microsoft Works to install on a computer, and it came in a box.
Yep. I bought Borland Turbo C++ for $90 from a software, etc. I still have the floppies. It's like, yeah, it's like that wasn't really easy to pirate in those days.
Yep.
But the problem with just buying software is actually not really a problem for the customer. If you know what software you want to buy and the price is reasonable, it's like terrific, right? You got it, you're good. It's that software needs updates. And it's like I buy it once, and someone's going to keep working, right, forever to keep updating the software for free because I'm not paying them anymore. I paid them once, the end, right? So how high would the price have to be for me to fund those people to keep patching and upgrading the software forever?
Yep. And a lot of people didn't worry about this a long time ago because the concept of software was relatively new to a lot of them. So, like, I bought Campaign Cartographer. It literally couldn't need an update. It just did what it did, and that was it. Like, that it was done. I had it. I had the software. There would never be another version of that software.
And so what companies would do is they would have to be like, they'd be like, shit, we sold all this software. Everyone who has it, everyone who needs it has it already. And we, what do we do now? Right? We got our money. Are we just going to go out of business? It's like, what, we made money. We profited, but we don't have any more cash flow.
Now, this is a fundamental problem with capitalism that is ruining us to this day. It's the same reason the Phoebus cartel made light bulbs worse on purpose. Durable goods do not appease capitalism because you can't make big returns on investments the same way. Selling durable goods is not a sustainable business model in the modern world.
No. So what they would inevitably do is they would start working on another version that had more features and bug fixes and was better.
Yep.
And because technology was advancing, they would, right? And technology was advancing rapidly. So the new version would often be way better than the previous version.
Oh,
right?
there was a further release of Campaign Cartographer, and it was another $70 to get it. You had to buy it all over again.
Exactly.
But it was much better that I bought it.
Right. That's what they would do, is because things were advancing so rapidly that the new version was so much better, so much different, so much more useful, and you had upgraded your computer from like Windows 3.1 to 95. It's like you were running the Windows 3.1 version in like, compatibility mode or whatever. It's like you wanted that new version. And so they could sell it to you again and again, as long as things kept advancing rapidly. But after a certain point, that rapid advancement really slowed down. And people were just like, well, I got this version and the new one, how much better is the new one really? I'm kind of good with this one.
A more modern example from the GeekNights era, the last just buy it versions of Adobe software, like the CS4 era, you would just buy it and have it, and you wouldn't get updates after a certain point, and then there'd be a new version later that cost a lot of money. And tons of people bought that software, and then when new versions of Adobe software came out, they didn't upgrade, but then they would complain constantly about how their software was shitty and old and like didn't have any of the new features, but were unwilling to buy the new software.
Yeah, because it cost $1,000 every time you got to. It's like, would you rather? It's like people complain, oh, you didn't used to be a subscription, and it's like, well,
it wasn't getting that much better either back in the
non-subscription
day.
But if you wanted to always update it, then it was $1,000 a year. So that was sort of a subscription, and it's like, and if you are somebody who doesn't need the new features, you're satisfied just staying with like a really old version. Are you really a professional? And if you're not really a professional, it's not worth it for you to spend any money. Use some free alternative thing instead. That's going to be almost as good. That'll get the job done for you.
Yep.
Right?
And that was, remember the era of OpenOffice was just as good as Word because Word wasn't that good back then.
Yep. But yeah, so the subscriptions came along, and the subscription is, just keep paying, and we'll keep giving you updates. We'll keep having cash flow. We don't have to turn over our employees all the time, right? We don't have to keep releasing new versions and selling it to you again. It's like, you just keep paying, we keep updating, you just have it forever. You're good.
Now,
we're
considering
good.
the nature of software, I do think this is just fundamentally a better way to go because software does kind of need updates and bug fixes and security patches and advances. There are very few kinds of software that hit a point of it's good enough forever. Like OBS version 1.8, that's it. We don't need any more streaming advancements ever.
I do think though, right, people do resent the subscription because it's like they don't truly own the software, right? And it's like if you stop paying, not only do you not get the updates, but it's like you lose everything that you've ever, right? It's like if you've got a bunch of PSD files because you're like an artist and you've been photoshopping for 10 years, and let's say you retire, right? Or, all the new features are things you don't need, but you're still paying this $50, whatever, right? However much it is for your Photoshop plan, depending on what your plan is, like forever. And if you stop paying, now Photoshop stops working, and you can't check your old PSD files.
But
right?
simultaneously,
you just lose access to all your arts
to
ever.
use a different analogy, I bought my car. It's paid off. I own this car. Never going to get an oil change again. Why would I ever get an oil change again?
It's not maintenance, though, right? Is that if you stopped getting updates, then your software would continue to work. You would be able to look at the PSD files you've already created, no problem, without oil changing.
True.
Right? It's like, so... you just wouldn't have access to the new features. So I think if somebody was going to do a subscription and you wanted to do it in a less user hostile way, you should simply say, you pay for the software, right? You have it. And if you stop paying, then, maybe we disable your ability to make new things. Maybe we disable your updates.
I'd go further. I'd say what we really need is regulation that above a certain scale, software that interacts with certain file types that is subscription-based, companies must be obligated to provide downloadable, locally runnable tools to interact with those files.
There should just be some way that they're not like locking you out, right? And you're not ruined. You could escape with your data at least.
Well, especially because here we're still talking about subscription to the software, but like the files are local, as opposed to say something like, I don't know, Miro, where you're paying for the service itself.
Right, so that's the newer model. Is software as a service, which is where you don't even install the software on your computer, which is in some ways really good. You don't have to maintain the software. You don't have to update it. You don't have to, do any work at all. It's just always running on someone else's computer, and you pay to access it. And now you can't really pirate it or anything. But you also don't have to worry about like setting it up or, at least you're not worrying about the security. Someone else is. um, and that kind of works too. But it has, again, problems, right?
If I stop paying for my storage locker, I don't get to go get all my stuff that's in my storage locker.
Right. It's like, if they go down, you can't work. It's like, I just have to wait for someone else fucked up their computer. That thousands of people are using the same computer to do work, and the people who own that computer fucked it up, and now all these thousands of people just have to wait until they fix it. You can't do anything about it. Whereas if you were running it locally, it would be on you to fix it. Maybe it would be broken, but you would still, everyone wouldn't be hosed at the same time, right? It would be piecemeal hosings. But also more difficult technical support for the company that makes it. You have to suddenly do tech support for all these users, as opposed to just have IT people that are supporting all the time.
Before you go further, I do want to make an announcement because the website updated, or I just didn't notice it. There's a banner now at the top of the MAGFest site. Due to low inventory, badge sales will not be available on site. Full stop.
All right.
You can still pre-register with the limited badges that are left, but there will be no badges sold at the door.
Okay, good. That will say it frees up at least like one staff person to do something else. But yeah, it's obvious why software as a service, especially with, the cloud infrastructures and all these things, has become really popular. But the biggest problem with it, I think, is that those platforms, unless they're a big mega platform, and even if they are, can die.
I mean, InVision died? One of those died. I forget which one's which because I'm not using that
it's
much
like,
anymore.
Even think of something huge like, say, Jira, right? It's like you can host your own Jira, but most people are using the Jira cloud version where it's hosted on Atlassian servers. If Atlassian dies...
yeah, and they could.
That's going to be a thing.
They could absolutely die.
Just because they're enormous, don't think that can't happen, right? And there's a lot of big companies like that. Salesforce, they have cloud versions, right? A lot of companies do.
Yep.
So, I mean, and there's probably software as a service for normal people too that you're not even thinking about. Duolingo, right?
Yep.
It's like Duolingo is software as a service, right? Even if you use the free version, it's runs on Duolingo's computers. The client you have is just a little client. If you're paying for it and they shut down, sure, you'll stop paying, but also you'll lose all your Duolingo.
Well, never mind tons and tons of enterprise and professional software. Like, remember, I used to sell software that you just buy and run with a license and software as a service. And having, in my previous company, trying to sell software as a service to very large companies where that software no longer being available would be a, quote, big fucking problem, unquote, for them. In contracts, we'd have to have agreements around rights to escrow of our source code or right to hire our employees if we go out of business. Like, they're free to poach our employees and like that kind of thing to assure them that they would be able to dig themselves out of the hole if we just went out of business. But at the same time, if you go out of business hard enough and fast enough, none of those types of contract things mean anything. And also, in my actual professional experience, escrow source code is less than worthless.
Yeah, what are they going to do? They don't have anyone who understands.
Yeah, imagine Google goes under and Google sends one last email to you. It's like, hey, sorry, we're gone. Here's our source code. Good luck.
Yeah, here's the mono repo with all the Google source code ever. It's like by the time it takes you to figure out all the source code.
You could have made a new Google.
If you have Google employees, even the Google employees will understand the area they worked on.
Yeah.
But they won't understand anything fucking else, right? And you can't recreate the Google infrastructure that runs that code unless you buy at the Google clearance sale. It's like, good luck.
And so far, what the direction all this is going is that paid software, however you access it, in the current world, which there was an era where this wasn't really true and people would just buy software the way they bought other things. You have to assume that anything you use on your computer might disappear someday and always be ready to do things differently, to migrate, to recreate, to change your pipeline, to change your process, to give up on everything and have to start over. And if you can't be ready for that, you're going to be screwed at some point by something.
Right. Even if you're using software as a service or a subscription program or whatever, you have to keep your data backed up, and not just backed up, but backed up in a format that is usable no matter what goes on, right? It's like I got all my emails backed up, but they're backed up as emails. So I can load them into pretty much anything that's email because SMTP, right? It's fine if Gmail dies. It's fine, but it's
It's
somewhat
fine.
it's okay. I can get away with it somehow.
I'll
with
survive.
Great difficulty.
Kind of like how the airbag will probably prevent me from dying in the ridiculous car crash, but I'd rather it not go off, and it's not going to be great that it went off.
Yeah. All right, just some other ways to sell software that are out there. Obviously, it's more gaming relevant, but also in other areas, which is where it's free to use, free to play, but then you sell all sorts of add-ons or other nonsense.
That's
right?
really common in enterprise software. You'll see things that are like, here, this platform is free, but you want to integrate it with SAP, that's $50,000 a year.
Yep. You charge for all the add-ons that add the real value. And it's sort of a shareware model in a sense.
Yeah.
And it's also sort of like, I guess, the whale aspect comes into it, right? Where, there's a few people who really need these features. And so we can milk them, but we can also become a big household name and get lots of users that is sort of marketing in a way, but also that can help us become an industry standard if everyone just starts using our stuff. Or
a variation on that theme is game engines often will have licensing where it's free to use up to a certain level of revenue or scale or something, after which now you're paying a licensing fee.
Right. And it's like, hey, you're out there, you're a little dev, you're choosing a game engine. It's like, you're not going to choose the ones that cost money because you have no money.
Yeah.
So, but the big companies like, if these people all start developing their games using like the Love engine like Balatro did, we're not going to, they'll just keep doing that forever. And they'll never be a customer of Unreal or Unity, right? They'll be satisfied with whatever, free thing, Godot engine they're using, and that'll be the end of us. So we need to make sure that they start with Unreal Engine. Well, we got to have a free version of some kind, just so that people learn our software. It stays an industry standard. There's employees for companies that use our software to hire, right? Someone who's toying with, Unreal Engine in college and high school can then get a job at somewhere that's using it. And so even though it's not directly selling that free cheapy version, it still is selling, right? It's not truly a benevolent free thing like our free stuff.
Which leads to, I don't know if this is on your list, but like Magento had this model, and this was a sort of open source with the option of managed services or consultancy services. The idea being, here is the software. It is open source and well documented, and you are free to use it.
You can host it yourself. You can do everything for free by yourself. Go ahead.
But by the way, all these people here who are experts at that software, you can pay them to run it for you, or pay them to set it up for you.
Or pay them to just get help with it. Or they'll help
Support.
They'll help you with some plugins, maybe even code a plugin for you, or help you because you're working on some stuff with it, right? Or you need a custom doodad for your company, or, if you need any help with that at all, we will help you for money. Right?
And you know
Red
what?
Hat Enterprise Linux.
Not a terrible idea, because at least the software is truly open source and out there. And one of the problems of open source is how do the people who contribute significantly to that software eat?
Yeah, I mean, Red Hat was following basically this model for a long time. They kind of still do, I guess, where it's like, hey, you can run Red Hat Linux, go ahead, right? But by the way, if you're a big company and you need, tech support for that shit, if you pay us for like a service contract, we're going to help you out. And it's like, it seems a little scammy, but it's like, from a company's perspective, this can make a lot of sense. The place it makes the most sense and is also the most scammy is with copy machines. You got an office and you need a big fancy copier in there, right? And it's like, okay, what are you going to do? Buy one of those things? You know how much money they are, right? And it's like, okay, you buy one. Now, anything happens to it. Do you have an expert in maintaining that machine on your staff? It's like, no, you don't. You're a lawyer or some shit, right? Or who knows what business you do, but it sure isn't copy machine repair. It's not, you got to call someone in like you call a plumber. And you got to make sure they're an expert in that one specific machine. Guess what? They're not. Right? Or instead of doing all that and having a miserable time, you don't buy the machine. You buy a service contract with some company that will put machines, you're basically kind of leasing them in your office, and you pay them constantly, but they also make sure the machines always work all the time and fix any problems with them all the time, and they have the service manuals to them, and they're experts because they're fixing copy machines all goddamn day. And so as a company, if you're not in that business, it's business equipment, it makes sense to you to do it that way. And they see that you have no choice, and they jack up the prices on you and kind of rip you off, because if you did buy the copy machine yourself and maintain it yourself, you would save a lot of money.
Yeah.
In the long run.
But
not
would
in the
you
short
really? Because
term.
then you're talking about the differences between operational expenses versus capital expenses, and all the stuff that I do as a job that
there's
sucks.
so much going on there. But the point is that model makes sense, and so it works and it exists, and so it exists for software as well, right? Which is, hey, just pay us a kind of a subscription, but really it's not a subscription for the software, it's a subscription for the service, because you don't have experts on this software, but you need to use it. And so by paying us this fee for our service contract, we will come and help you at any time you need. We won't really be your employees, we're own employees, but it works out. Oh, the last one.
The last one.
The last one, which is you don't sell the software, but software only happens to work on this hardware that we sell.
I thought you were going to go with
buy
the last option of the unlimited bespoke time and materials consultancy to make you your software.
I mean, yeah, that's one way to do it. But it's like, Mac OS. Mac OS is basically free. You can't buy Mac OS, but good luck. You have to buy an Apple computer. The Mac OS is just a free, all the pages, all those Apple apps. Yeah, they run on Mac computers or iPhones or whatever it is they run on. You have to buy this hardware to run that software. And it's not always it's not just Apple, right? There's lots of custom devices out there that have software included. And the software isn't like a separate thing you buy. It's like you're sort of getting it for free, or it's sort of part of the hardware.
Sometimes it's like the app you use to control your GoPro. Sometimes it's the software running on your GoPro.
Right, exactly, right? You buy a camera. The camera has a firmware on it. You can just get firmware updates from the web for free, right? But they're useless to you if you don't have the camera. But that's still software that is being sold, right? Someone at those companies is developing software on a regular basis, and they are continuing to get cash flow because hardware is being manufactured that runs that software, and that hardware is constantly selling and getting upgrades.
Think about the software that makes a modern car work. Not the entertainment system, though that's also part of this, but like the software that is making the car work.
It's like, you're kind of, when you buy the car, you're also buying that software. Someone's job is to make that software. It's being sold to you. It's not, you don't see it on the list of things as parts of the car on your invoice, but it's in there somewhere. It's baked in.
So there are obviously different ways to get software made, but we live in a capitalist society, so most software needs to make money or else that software won't exist. We're not at a point where our society will prioritize a certain kind of software existing. Even software you might think of like OBS that's like very open source and seems to be great and constantly improving, it just works. OBS is only getting so much investment because a lot of companies make a lot of money using OBS, which is sustaining this ecosystem.
Yep. I mean, open source software typically isn't sold, although oftentimes it is legal to try to sell it if you wanted to.
Nessus was a big story with that a long time ago.
But it's like, why does the Linux kernel have all this development on it? Because it's so important. So many companies use it that if you look at the Linux kernel mailing list, what email addresses do you see? At Intel.com, at NVIDIA, at IBM, at Red Hat. It's all these people work at these companies, and those companies are hiring them to work on Linux, to modify Linux itself in ways that the company needs it to be worked on, for the benefit of we also benefit, but the companies are doing it because they're using that shit and they need it.
Yep.
They need it to work.
To paraphrase
they don't
a lot
have
of old
to
detective
do
movies,
it on their own.
Follow the money. There's always a money trail. So I'll end on, not related to the show, but in the chat, the listener said two things that turned me to dust, and I think it's worth. I need you to hear these. Just checking in to say, I was a kid listening to Geek Nights on my PSP's RSS reader back in 2006 in middle school.
Okay.
And
There-
I just
you probably
wanted,
shouldn't have. There should have been some age verification, so you couldn't listen to Geek Nights.
yeah, what the fuck were we saying in
at that age.
2006?
Nothing I agree with now. Whatever I said back then, I was wrong.
Also, a big YouTuber I've never heard of, Jarvis Johnson, around my age, said on a podcast, quote, he used to listen to you guys as a kid.
He's a big YouTuber.
I guess.
How big? Bigger than us.
Used
I
to
guess.
listen to you as a kid is a phrase I guess was inevitable, but still weird to hear it.
All right. I mean, big YouTube guy. Maybe you're not bad if you listen to us. I hope you're not a
I hope
bad
you didn't
YouTuber.
listen to the wrong episodes from 2006.
Yeah, I hope you're one of the good YouTubers and not the bad, scummy ones who's all yelly that I don't like. But also, I don't know.
We've been doing this a long time.
Good luck, YouTube guy. Unless you're the bad kind, in which case, bad luck.
My favorite phrase when I'm mad at someone lately is I will sign the email ill regards.
Ill regards.
I've been using this a lot lately.
I hope listening to some Geek Nights in your youth turned you into good YouTube guy. Then I would know that